Invincible Season 3 has been widely acclaimed for its compelling storytelling, character development, and intense action sequences. The creator's deliberate effort to present morally ambiguous characters adds depth to the narrative, steering clear of the clear-cut morality often seen in traditional superhero stories. Invincible Season 3 continues the animated adaptation of Robert Kirkman's critically acclaimed comic series, further deepening the complex narrative while expanding on character development, themes, and world building. The season successfully builds upon the emotional turmoil, brutal fights, and moral dilemmas that made the first two seasons so compelling. Season 3 picks up in the aftermath of the devastating battle with Armstrong, which left Mark Grayson emotionally scarred and unsure of his place in the world. The central conflict of this season is Mark's growing understanding of what it truly means to be a hero, not just in terms of physical strength, but in the ability to make difficult choices in the face of overwhelming odds. He is no longer the naive teenager from Season 1, but a young man burdened by the knowledge of his father's legacy and the looming Viltrumite threat. The story weaves multiple subplots together, such as Mark's struggle to balance his personal life with his responsibilities as a superhero, his relationship with Atom Eve, and his conflict with the Viltrumites. The introduction of Conquest, an older, battle-hardened Viltrumite, raises the stakes significantly. His presence forces Mark to confront his own limitations and makes him question whether he can ever truly defeat the Viltrumites. The brutal fight between Mark and Conquest is one of the season's most memorable moments, serving as a brutal reminder of the impossible odds he faces. The season also delves into the consequences of Omni-Man's betrayal, exploring how Earth and other planets react to the growing Viltrumite threat. The coalition of planets plays a larger role, with figures like Alan the Alien stepping up as important allies. These elements add layers of political intrigue and galactic conflict, broadening the scope of the story beyond just Mark's personal struggles. One of the biggest strengths of Invincible is its character development, and Season 3 continues this trend by allowing Mark and those around him to grow in meaningful ways. Mark Grayson undergoes significant maturation, learning that being a hero is more than just fighting villains. It's about perseverance, responsibility, and sacrifice. He becomes more pragmatic, understanding that violence alone won't solve his problems, and he starts to take on a leadership role with the greater fight against the Viltrumites. However, his emotional struggles remains a key part of his journey. His trauma from past events lingers, and his relationships, particularly with his mother and Atom Eve, become more nuanced as they all try to navigate a world that is constantly under threat. Atom Eve, who has always been a standout character, takes on a more proactive role. Her internal struggles, balancing her superhero duties and her desire for a normal life, are relatable and add depth to her character. Instead of simply being a love interest for Mark, she becomes a hero in her own right, dealing with her own moral dilemmas and growing into a formidable force. Omni-Man, despite being absent for most of the season, remains an ever-present shadow over Mark's journey. When he does return, his arc is fascinating, as he is forced to reckon with his past actions and whether redemption is even possible for someone like him. His complex relationship with Mark adds an emotional weight to the season that is just as compelling as the action sequences. While Season 3 excels in many areas, one of its weaker aspects is the handling of recurring antagonists like Armstrong, Levy, and Powerplex. Both characters have tragic backstories that make them sympathetic on paper, but their obsession with killing Mark Grayson feels forced and repetitive. Armstrong Levy's ability to travel between dimensions is a fascinating concept, and his transformation into a villain due to a tragic accident is initially compelling. However, his blind hatred towards Mark, despite Mark's innocence in the accident that disfigured him, quickly becomes a tired plot device. Every time he reappears, it feels like a retread of the same conflict, and his insistence on blaming Mark for his suffering lacks logical depth. While his battles with Mark leads to some impressive action sequences, his motivations remain frustratingly one-dimensional. Similarly, Powerplex's vendetta against Mark feels needlessly exaggerated. His tragic loss of family members due to collateral damage during one of Mark's battles gives him a reason to resent superheroes. But his tunnel vision hatred of Mark in particular ignores the larger context of the conflict. Although it explores a more nuanced take on accountability and superhero ethics, Powerplex's appearances mostly serve as repetitive interruptions that don't add much to the overarching story. One of the most emotionally compelling elements of Invincible Season 3 is the introduction of Oliver Grayson, the half-brother of Mark. His presence not only adds new dimensions to Mark's journey, but also provides Debbie with a renewed sense of purpose after the devastating betrayal of Omni-Man. Oliver's character arc evolving from an emotionally detached, hyperlogical being into someone who values life and understands the responsibility of power adds a fresh dynamic to the show's exploration of heroism, morality, and family. Debbie Grayson has arguably suffered the most from Nolan's betrayal. The revelation that her entire marriage was built on a lie shattered her sense of identity, leaving her emotionally drained and directionless. While she remains a strong and determined individual, the weight of what she has endured is evident. The introduction of Oliver presents her with something that she has lost: family. Raising Oliver gives Debbie a renewed sense of purpose. Rather than being defined by her past suffering, she is able to channel her love and resilience into raising another child. This is not just a matter of survival, but of ensuring that Oliver does not become like his father. Unlike Nolan, who sought to mold Mark into a ruthless warrior, Debbie teaches Oliver compassion, human values, and the importance of emotional connection. Through him, she finds joy again, not just in being a mother, but in having a role in shaping a better future. Her relationship with Oliver also highlights her strength. Raising a Viltrumite hybrid is no easy task, especially given how rapidly he grows compared to a human child. Despite this, Debbie approaches motherhood with patience and determination, ensuring that Oliver grows up with a moral compass rather than the cold pragmatism of his Viltrumite lineage. In many ways, Oliver represents her second chance, not just undoing the past, but at preventing another tragedy. Mark's relationship with Oliver is one of the most intriguing aspects of Season 3. It forces him to mature in a way that is different from his responsibilities as a superhero. While he has always struggled with the weight of expectations, being an older brother to Oliver, and at times a father figure, puts him in a position of true mentorship. Unlike Mark, who had a normal childhood and grew up with human values before learning of his Viltrumite heritage, Oliver has no such foundation. Born of an alien species, raised on a different planet for part of his early life, and possessing rapid aging, Oliver views the world through a different lens. His initial perspective is shaped by Viltrumite logic. Power is dominance and efficiency matters more than morality. He sees violence as a tool and does not initially grasp the moral weight of taking a life. Mark, having already faced the horrors of Viltrumite ideology through his father, understands where his path leads. He knows that if Oliver grows up believing that power entitles him to take lives, he will become the very thing they are trying to stop. Through their interactions, Mark becomes both a mentor and a role model, teaching Oliver that being strong does not mean being ruthless. Their relationship is complex because it is not simply a standard older brother dynamic. Given Oliver's accelerated aging, he quickly reaches an age where he wants to fight alongside Mark. However, unlike Mark, he lacks emotional maturity. This creates tension as Mark struggles to balance protecting Oliver while also recognizing that he cannot shield him from the realities of their world forever. Oliver's journey is one of the most compelling arcs in Season 3. He sees killing as a means to an end. If someone is a threat, eliminating them is logical. Under Mark and Debbie's guidance, he begins to understand that true strength lies in restraint and in saving lives rather than taking them. A crucial moment in Oliver's development comes when he kills the Mauler twins. His reaction is not immediate remorse but rather anger. He does not understand why Mark and Debbie are so upset. It is through their disappointment and guidance that he begins to process the weight of his actions. Mark in particular takes it upon himself to teach Oliver that morality is not about what is easy but about what is right. Over time, Oliver starts to internalize these lessons. Instead of seeing violence as the first solution, he begins to prioritize saving people. This shift is not instantaneous, nor is it easy. There are moments where his instincts push him towards his more ruthless side, but through the influence of Mark and Debbie, he chooses a different path. Had Oliver not been raised by Debbie and mentored by Mark, his trajectory would have been far darker. He could have easily been a weapon of destruction, believing that power grants the right to take life. Instead, he grows into someone who understands the responsibility that comes with strength. His arc is a powerful example of how guidance, love, and moral teaching can shape a person's destiny. Overall, Invincible Season 3 elevates the series to new heights, blending intricate storytelling with visceral action, and solidifying its place as a standout in the superhero genre.